Hey guys, it's Jessica Fury, host of Dumb Girl Podcast. Tune in every Monday for new episodes. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome to Dumb Girl Podcast. Welcome back. Today we have Cristina Guerra-Voce. She is an addiction impacted relationship and recovery coach. She is a health and wellness coach. She has started a community that's like Al-Anon, but it's not Al-Anon, where they focus on breaking the stigma of addiction, education, and loving the shit, which I love, out of ourselves. Cristina, welcome to Dumb Girl Podcast.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. How do you share that with people? Like, how do you share the line of work that you do with others?
It's absolutely a mouthful. I have not gotten down pack my elevator spiel yet. I am quite the talker. I like to story tell. I'm always like the long story short, but it's actually the long story long. Cannot give a short story. And so when I share with others what I do, I just have to be like fully vulnerable and honest. And when someone's like, "Hey, well, what do you do for work?" I'm like, well, hey, I have a full-time job, but on the side, I'm actually a health and wellness coach where I focus on helping women who are in addicted, impacted relationships. So exactly what you shared about breaking the stigma, education. What I like to focus on is the other side of addiction and recovery, which is the side of the partner or the spouse, because I feel like we are the ones who sort of get left behind when we're talking about addiction. And I have found in my personal experience, and I'm sure we're going to get into that, right? Uh, that couldn't talk to anybody. I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. And so when people say, what do you do? What's your coaching? Those are all the things that I share with them. I want them to know that, like, I see you, I hear you, I've been you, I am you. Like, we're in this together and we can move forward together.
I mean, you have to have a lot of not empathy, but just the ability to take on somebody else's stuff.
Mm. Yes.
Like I've been to therapy before, and one of the things that I like about the business that you have is that you separate yourself from therapy, counseling, like you completely detach. It's like you're almost like a personal trainer. They're showing up and they're coaching you through the work that you need to do. And there's something that I find to be so remarkable about that work. I find it to be like you're just an empathetic person to like take on that level of work and emotion. And you and I have shared that I go to Al-Anon because I was in a relationship with somebody who was sober from their addictions, but the behaviors are still there. They're still there. But I want you to take me back and what brought you into this place? What is your experience with addiction and how did it turn into something that you wanted to create a business with?
Sure. So let's go back briefly to 2015, which is when I met my now husband. And we were dating. I was in grad school. He had just graduated from college. He was trying to figure out what he was doing with his life. We met through mutual friends out at a bar. We hit it off really well. We were into fitness. We had great conversations. We kind of were like dreamers about what we wanted our future to look like in terms of like our careers. And we just were two peas in a pod. We spent a lot of time together. We went through some, big accomplishments together, like as friends, but like as dating also. Like it was like a weird situation, like maybe a situationship, if you will, like for a long period of time. we were young, we were dumb, we didn't know what we were doing with our lives. And eventually, we had spent a lot of time in the bars drinking. We were 23, I think, at that point. At a point, I started to think more seriously about like my career and what I wanted to do with my life. And like, I wasn't really drinking as much, or it really partying wasn't a priority to me. And I had sort of noticed this like plateau for him where he was still very much into that scene. He had some younger friends that I really didn't care for. And I started to just notice that our growth just was not on the same page. I was growing this way and he was kind of going this way. And we stayed together. I thought the maturity, he's just a fun-loving guy, and he loves the adrenaline rush, and making up some of these stories in my head to try and justify, why his continuing to drink was a part of our story. I had recognized a couple of times throughout our 3-year relationship that there was prioritizing drinking with others over spending time with me, or feeling like I had to sort of convince him to come to an event, like maybe with family or friends, that there would be drinking involved. I found myself a lot of the time babysitting in a sense. If we would go out, and I really wouldn't drink a lot because I felt like I had to make sure that he was going to be okay. Nearly falling asleep while we were out. Me going to the bartender and saying, babe, I'll get you your usual, but like, I'm really getting him like a cup of water with a lime to make it look like a drink. Lying to family, lying to friends about, how much he was drinking or why he wasn't feeling well. There were a lot of signs that drinking was an issue, but I really had never had any experience with alcoholism. Like, I don't think I had even said that word in my life up until 2018, when I finally recognized like I'm dealing with something a lot bigger than just someone who, has FOMO about college life. It was impacting his, going to work. It was impacting our relationship. I'm skipping a lot of like the gory details, but there was a lot of lying and covering up and pain that, one, I wouldn't wish on anybody, but two, it came to my attention that this is not going to fix itself overnight. And for about a full year, I had decided I'm going to do the best that I can to help him like move through like whatever mental health struggles that he was dealing with. And, I was very involved, and I was almost like caretaking and really giving up a lot of my own life to try to tend to him and what he was going through, because he had at a point gone through a really tough mental health crisis, if you will, that was very scary for the both of us. And it was really at that point that I think I had realized I was sleeping for like 3 years of our relationship and in complete denial about what was happening, where one day I don't even know, it was just like God like opened the blinds for me and was like, Cristina, open your freaking eyes and understand that this is bigger than you. You cannot fix this. You cannot change this. And I decided I can't do this anymore. My life was going in a direction that I didn't want it to. I didn't recognize myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. And I don't think that I ever really did know myself while I was dating him for those 3 years, because I think if I had known myself and known what I deserved and had boundaries in place, I would have never stayed in the relationship for as long as I did. And in 2018, I decided to split from him. We were living together and it was really hard. I mean, I had been contemplating it for months. I was out of the relationship emotionally before I left it physically. And it was just one morning where I just said, this isn't working. Like, I love you. I want to be with you, but I cannot be with you like this. And I'm dying. Like, my mental health is suffering. You're suffering. I'm not helping you. You're not helping you. I'm actually like, and it wasn't until maybe 2 or 3 years later that I realized I was actually enabling the entire situation the entire time that we were together. And so we took about a 1-year break from each other. I said, it's not because I hate you. I just hate what's happening. Like, I seriously had to detach myself from the relationship and say, yes, I care about you. Yes, I want to be with you. But right now, I actually care more about your well-being and I care about my well-being. That's the priority. So I need to go. I need to heal. I need to figure out what that even means. And I want you to go, maybe hopefully do the same, but I can't worry about what you choose to do. And that was really scary for me to just kind of be like, Godspeed to you. But I had to move forward with my own life. And so we spent a year apart, and it was
Did you talk? Did you guys communicate, or no communication? No social media?
No. So I blocked him. I had to go no contact. That was my way of healing, or beginning my process of healing, where I said, I'm going to block you on social media, like Instagram, Facebook. I'm removing your family. I'm removing some of your like closest friends. Like, I don't want to see them, because I know by seeing them, I'm going to see you like in a story or in a post or something. And I don't want them feeding you information about me and vice versa. Right. So I really just needed this physical separation. Like, a lot of the communication that we did have was really just about moving out of our apartment. It was very transactional. It was like, I'm doing the walkthrough today. Here's your half of the security deposit. Like, I had to keep it very emotionless for me to survive like the breakup, because it wasn't just losing my best friend and the man that I thought I was going to marry. It was losing what I thought we were going to have. It was grieving all of the shit that we had gone through. As bad as it was, it's still a loss. I was also grieving, like, in a weird sense, what's my purpose now? Like, I spent 3 years sort of like making sure that, he was safe in a way, like in a weird way. I mean, like, we did have like great parts of the relationship, but the drinking was just towards the end, just a very big issue. And I felt like too much of my time was spent focusing on him and none of it was spent focusing on myself. So, yep, blocked the whole thing. Like, I'm done. I'm moving forward. I hope that we can maybe like be in touch when you're sober, if you ever get sober. And I had hope. I think there was a point where I lost hope. I was like, I don't know, this might be a lost cause. Like, and it was pep talking every day. It's like, Cristina, this hurts, this sucks, but you're gonna get through this. Like, you're strong. You stop playing the highlight reel, so to speak. Like, because of course it was like all the good memories were like coming back and flooding me, right? And it was making it really hard to stay away. And like, I wanted to call him. I wanted to be like come over. Like, let's like fix this, right? Like, let's give me a hug and it'll go away. And that's not what alcoholism is. Like, alcoholism doesn't go away overnight. It doesn't go away ever. Just those who struggle with their drinking figure out how to be in recovery and how to have a new purpose. And so we were separated for a year and we got back in touch. towards the end of 2019, like
Who
December
got,
of
who got
2019.
in touch with who? Did you get in touch with him or he got in touch with you?
Oh, it's kind of a funny story. Not to go into the details, but I guess I had unblocked him from Instagram to the point where like we weren't friends, but he could still send me a message. And he sent me a message that like got to me at a very vulnerable time that enraged me beyond belief. And before I could respond to the message on Instagram, he blocked me. So I couldn't get in contact with him.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so I'm like, I'm just like in this rage. I could, like, my body temperature had increased from reading that message. And I shot him like a text that like, really, I'm going to tell you, right? And as soon as I hit send, I go, oh my God, he has my new phone number. So it was really my doing, I lost sense of where I was and like what my purpose was in like my recovery in that moment of weakness. But as ironic as it is that I was sending him like a message cursing him off, that we were able to like be civil with one another and slowly have conversations that were like not F you, F this, F that. Like if you get what I'm saying, like
Totally.
he never said any of that nasty stuff to me, but I was angry. Like I was in the grieving stage of complete anger. And I think I sat in that for a really long time. I think like sadness overtook me, but the anger just like, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know where to put it. And here was my opportunity to put my anger towards him, which was where I guess I needed to be at that point in time. So anyway, that is how we got back into contact, and things changed from there.
What
But I
did you
did
do
not.
what did you do during that time period that, because we put the focus back on ourselves. We have to remove ourselves or detach ourselves from the addict or the addiction or the substance itself, or all three of those things. And and I should have brought this up at the beginning of our conversation, that if anyone is struggling with any of these issues, there's always a person you can always reach out to, whether it's myself or Christina. There's always resources, and I always like to make myself available and in service in any way possible. So if people are struggling with those things, I do always make myself available to be in service to another person. Um, but we have to put the focus on ourselves. And what were those things that you had to do? Because you had to detach and remove yourself from a situation and also take care of yourself emotionally.
Yeah, that was really difficult. I had no clue what that looked like at the very beginning. What I remember is saying, this isn't working, but I'm going to figure it out. I was scared. I'm like alone, but I also was like, you know what? I have so much to look forward to, because staying kept me small. It kept me sad. It kept me angry. It kept me from achieving some certain things that I wanted to achieve, because my focus and my energy was in completely the wrong places. And so now, as sad and as angry as I was also looking at this as an opportunity for complete growth. Like it was having to pep talk myself every single day, minute by minute. You know what they say, like in an AA, right? Is like one day at a time. And that's exactly how I had to live my life, but I was living it 1 minute at a time. And so emotionally, surrounding well, not at first, it was difficult to surround myself with family because because of my anger and them not understanding why I was so sad, because to them it was like, well, you should be happy. Like this is a good thing. And it's like, I could see that from an outside perspective of why one would say, well, this is a good thing for you. Like, this is what needed to happen. Like, why don't you see that? But from my perspective, they didn't know what I was feeling, and they didn't actually even know any of the details of what we had experienced and what I had seen and what I had heard. It was just so much bigger than anybody even understood. So it was hard for me to be around family because they didn't understand my grief. And I didn't want to have to explain it to them because I was tired. I was ashamed in a lot of ways too. So I spent my time with a girlfriend who, like, she didn't know all the details, but she was very supportive of me. She was my absolute rock. She never judged anything that I did or anything that I said. We spent a lot of time together. I shared a lot with her of, like, you know, kind of how sad and angry I was. And she just having one friend who, like, she didn't even like ask me any of the details. She just was there for me, and I leaned on her. So having a friend was important to me. I was in therapy for I'm not in therapy anymore, but I was in therapy for 3.5 years, and I had started my therapy right when our relationship had ended. That was huge for me. I mean, I remember my therapist, she was like, you're in crisis. Like, she's like, we can't do any work until like this crisis is like subdued. And I remember going in there, and like all I wanted to talk about was like what my then boyfriend had did and what he said and what he was doing and what I had heard. And she was like, this is not about him. You're here because you want to move forward. And by continuing to just talk about what he's doing or what you heard he was doing, like, you're just spinning your tires in the mud. And that for me was like a huge wake up call. It was like, oh my God, I'm spending money to come in here and I'm talking about him. And I haven't said a word about what I can do to move through this. And it was from that moment. I mean, she was an amazing therapist. Like, she saved my life. Like, she was just absolutely incredible. And, you know, she would hug me after my sessions, like, and I would cry in her arms. It was just like the sweetest thing. She was really helpful for me. And fitness is a really big part of my life. And I really leaned into my gym family, and they had no idea what I was going through. Like, they weren't folks that I would really share my personal business with. And it was the one place where I could go where, like, I didn't have to think about my life. Like, my 1 hour grueling workout was about getting through the workout and like sweating and getting my heart rate up. And it was like getting out of my head, getting into my body, and just having that solace for 1 hour a day. Like, that was exactly what I needed. And then I realized I needed to have new experiences. A lot of my experiences for the last 2 years had been tied to my relationship. And I was like, you know what? It's time to travel. It's time to go do things in a new city with new people and have these new experiences where they're not associated with like these really with this person. They're not tainted. I really wanted to give myself new experiences and a new chance to make memories that I could take with me moving forward, and not always just, you know, be looking at the past and dwelling on the past. So it was a conglomerate of things. I mean, there's no one right way to heal yourself emotionally and to detach from something. Like, everyone wants the secret sauce, or like, what's the formula?
Yeah.
There is a formula.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's, you know, when the experience that I'm going through right now, it is so painful that I would never wish it on to another person. And you said that before. And somebody 2 days ago said, let go or get dragged. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm like,
100%.
but it's like going back to like even the fitness thing where it's like, it's a combination of things. Like for me, I'm like, it's a combination of things. Like even having coffee in the morning by myself and not running out the door contributes to that. It
Mhm.
contributes to that. And I just try to find like new things on a day-to-day basis, but it's like, I'm still in like the earlier stages of the stuff that you're just explaining right now. And I agree with a lot of those things. And I think I want surrounding myself with people that have been in those situations is what people experience hope. They start to feel like, from what I was just listening to what you were saying, like there was a part of you that you lost yourself and you had to get yourself back. And you did that by just doing the most simplistic things, which is just like waking up, working on your business, and going to the gym. But there's something that you created within this. You created this, I know it's like a side thing that you have, but it's something that you're very passionate about. That's how I met you.
Mhm.
I met you through this actually somebody I was on the phone with, I don't remember who, said, "You should look at this girl, Christina. You should check out what she's into." And that's how I found you. And then, I saw the community that you've built. Where in this process did you start to turn the corner and to create this community that you have? And can you speak a little bit more about this community that you've created?
Absolutely. Yeah, I haven't even touched on that. I went on a tangent for your first question, and I realized that I never even got to like what really is the most important part of everything.
All
So
of it's important, Christina.
all of it's important, right? It's all part of the story of how we get here. Um, so to what you were saying first, I never even once thought about speaking with others who had experienced what I had back in 2018 and 2019. That was like not an option for me. I think I still held a stigma around what we had experienced, like around alcoholism. Like it took me a really long time to even place that that's what it was. Like it wasn't really until my now husband entered his recovery and started going to AA that he was like, I'm an alcoholic. And I was like, what? Like for me, it was always like, you just like drink way too much and like you're out of control. Like I just could never put two and two together. Denial. It was just pure denial. And so in 2020, it was the pandemic. I had actually moved away from my hometown. I moved into Manhattan, was working my job there. I was like on this new adventure, new city, new job, the whole thing, really trying to move forward. And within just a few months, the pandemic hit. And it was like, boom, close. I'm like, oh my God, I just got so gypped. This would only be 2 weeks though, right? I did a lot of baking and whatever, a lot of fitness, like virtually. Um, like what was it? 6 months went by, and my now husband, he in his recovery had decided to start like an organization for first responders. That's what he does. He's a first responder, to help them, get sober. And he was meeting with first responders locally and from all over the country, like over Zoom, and bringing these people together. And I was like, wow, I love what you're doing. Like you're using your experience for a greater purpose and you're being in service to others. And I had never really spoken to anybody about my side of things. And it was at that point where I realized, I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't think anyone really ever asked me like how I was doing in all of this. Like, I felt like there wasn't really any resources for me. And not to say that there weren't any resources. I think it was just that I wasn't allowing myself to utilize them because there was such a stigma for me. And so, and I apologize. My robo vacuum just went off. So please let me just pause, Roberta.
Okay.
Thank you. There we go.
I love it.
So, all right, this is real life. This is my vacuum is going.
I love it.
So anyway, so I was like, what is there for someone who's in my position, you know, the family member, the loved one, the one who loves the person who's struggling or who's sober now. And you know what? I did try Al-Anon. I even went to some open AA meetings with my husband. And I was like, this is really interesting, but this isn't really for me. I really did resonate with the folks that were there. And I was like, I think I'm looking for more of like a modernized situation. So I, in the past, like when I was big into fitness, I had a fitness Instagram and I shared all about my competitions and the food that I ate and yada, yada. And I was like, I'm going to just go to social media and I'm going to find a tribe. And I started this account, relationships and recovery. I had literally 2 followers. It was like my personal account and my husband. And I was like, I'm just going to post my experience. And the purpose of it at that time was to do simply that, just to share. I think I needed to get it out. I think I was harboring it for a really long time. And I just wanted to put it out on paper, or like whoever, I don't care who sees this. Like, I don't care if you judge me. This is my story. I'm a human being. And all of a sudden I was getting like a lot of DMs like, oh my God, thank you so much for talking about this. Thank you for, you know, being vulnerable. Thank you for having this conversation and having this space. And I was like, whoa, I didn't realize that there were so many other people out there who needed this type of support, because for so long I thought I was the only one. I felt very isolated. So I'm like, no one else is going through what I'm going through. I'm the only one. And I realized how not unique I am simply by starting this Instagram account. And just the more I shared, the more people reached out. And I think the most important and impactful thing for me was people saying like, I need someone like you to give me hope that everything is going to be okay. And that's all I ever wanted. I decided from then on, I'm going to be the person that I needed when I needed that person the most. And so that's been, you know, my guiding line, I guess you could say, for the work that I do, is be the person that I needed, right? So I one day put out feelers. I'm like, who wants to chat virtually? You know, I messaged with people, but it was so siloed. It was like you couldn't have a conversation with more than one person. And so, hey, who wants to meet on Zoom? That was like in December of 2020. And so now we're going on 2.5 years of meeting on a weekly basis. Women from all over the country. I've had women from the UK, from Colombia, Australia. Like the reach is insane of coming on to our weekly meeting just to be in a room with other women who understand what it's like to love someone who struggles with addiction. It doesn't matter if it's alcoholism or drug use or gambling or sex. We've heard it all in that room. We welcome anyone and everyone who is willing to just come in, and you don't have to show your face. You don't have to share your story. Of course, we do validate that you're a real human being and that you belong in that room. But, you know, I always say, come as you are. Bring your kid, bring your dog, bring your cat, bring your dinner, like whatever. Just be there.
And you guys do like 3-minute shares. Does everybody share something? Is there a pressing problem? Is there a topic?
It depends on the evening. So the way it started was topics. And it started with topics because it needed organization, needed structure, right? So I came in and I'm like, I'm researching things. Like I got topics, I got talking points, share my experience, and then let everybody else share their experience in terms of that specific topic. It's evolved over time where this group is a tight-knit group. I mean, there's some in there who've been in the meeting for the full 2.5 years.
Wow.
Every week, or very rarely missing. It's just become open forum. Share what's on your heart, share what's on your mind today. You know what? We don't have to sit here and talk about all this really heavy stuff. Let's just get to know each other on who we are and what we like to do, right? Like, we are people beyond loving someone who struggles with addiction. And I think that's an important part of the group that, I facilitate, is we're friends. Like, we're friends, not just in the meeting during the week. We're friends outside of the meeting. Text, hey, how are you? What's up? Like, I know some personal pieces of people that have nothing to do with, their loved one and their situation. It's become an amazing community of connection.
And now some of them you work privately on your coaching, you work with them.
Yes.
So there's a couple things that are like floating around, and some of them are almost turning into like these weird buzzwords that are going on in the world. And two of those, I want to just hear how you help the people that you're working with to deal with these two things. And one of them is gaslighting, and I know you hear that all the time. And it's such a word that's being thrown around so much right now. And manipulation.
Yeah. I actually have a client right now who's dealing with both of those things: gaslighting, manipulation, just the lying. Obviously, it's lying, right? It's really difficult when you have an individual well, first of all, let me backtrack a little bit. Let me give examples of like the gaslighting that can take place in a situation like this, right? So like, maybe this is my experience. I had alcohol in the fridge, and it was like cans of not Trulies, but one of the other seltzers. I wasn't really ever a big drinker, but I started to notice that my cans were missing. Like, I bought like a 12-pack, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I don't remember drinking one. But I'm like, oh, maybe I did. And then another few were gone. I'm like, did I drink that? And I go to, it was my then boyfriend. Have you been drinking my seltzers? No, I haven't been drinking at all. Okay, I must have drank them, right? Confusing the other person, making them believe something that is not true. Had another instance. I'm going to share personal experiences only because I don't feel comfortable sharing client stories. I had seen a picture online, it wasn't online. I was a phone snooper. Let me just be truly transparent. I played detective like it was my full-time job, and I had snooped the phone. I saw a picture, and it was
Of another girl.
Oh no, it wasn't of a girl. It was of my husband, but back then we were just dating. He was my boyfriend.
Oh.
He was in the living room with me, but the picture that he had sent to one of his friends was him at the bar drinking. And I'm looking at it, and it was from that day. And he's standing in the living room across from me, wearing the exact same outfit in the photo. And meanwhile, he had told me that he was like at the gym, that he like went for coffee, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, this is from today. He's like, no, that's from the other day. I'm like, you're in the exact same outfit. He was like, yeah, I wore it again. And it was like, I didn't know reality from the lies. I'm looking at it right in front of me. I'm seeing it time-stamped, but he's telling me something completely different. This is what happens because I need to find a better word for addict, but the person who is, dependent and reliant and addicted to substances, They will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, they will do anything so that you do not get in their way of using. They don't want to get caught. And when they do get caught, they gaslight you. And I had already been gaslit for so long that I was like, I guess, sure, yeah, right. But so when it comes to working with my clients, and this is something I had to practice it within myself, was recognizing that the gaslighting is going to happen and we need to stay very rooted in reality. And instead of like going and trying to play detective and figure out, well, were you really drinking? Did you really wear this outfit 2 days in a row? It doesn't matter. What you believe is truth is the truth. I don't care what he's saying. Believe that what you know is the end all be all, and stand firmly in that belief. Because when I was not firm in my belief that, what he said was true, oh, maybe not, maybe I'm crazy, I'm insane, he's making me crazy. Oh, yeah, you're a little like, are you sure you're okay? I think your anxiety is getting the best of you. And maybe you should just like take a chill pill and like maybe like sit down for a little bit, or I don't know, get a glass of water. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I've just had a really long day at work. No.
And you
So I
help
guess
people, and you help, like, you communicate these things with your clients that they just then almost have to do like they have to almost do the opposite esteemable action, which is the opposite from what they would normally do, which is to become reactive or to argue or to
correct.
bring something up.
Correct. And that's, and yes, exactly. You said it better than me. I was storytelling, right? So that's the thing. It's, don't do the thing that you normally would do, playing detective to try and figure out if they're being honest. You already know. Also, what's their pattern? Is
Yeah.
this common?
Yeah.
Does this happen often? Likely that you already know what's true. If you think you smell alcohol in their breath and they tell you, no, I had coffee. You know when someone looks out of it. You know when someone's eyes are glazed over. You know what alcohol smells like. It's learning to trust yourself again. And that's a very hard thing to do, because the gaslighting makes you believe that you don't know anything, that you're crazy.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I mean, I've had my own experience with that. And I think it's like an uncovering right now because, I mean, a lot of times what they do is they replace one addiction with the other. And the the reason why a lot of these programs do help is because even though the substance may not be specifically there, the behaviors the behaviors that come with the addiction may still be there, and those things are constantly being worked on, whether
Right.
they're within ourselves or with the other people. And I think that there's something that you're just doing right now that's just so remarkable. And even I was reading about this about you yesterday. It's like you were saying, like, you neglect the needs and wants, and it's out of fear and the lack of knowing and the lack of support, and you help others reclaim their life by stepping into their power. And the way that I see stepping into their power is reintroducing yourself back to yourself, where it's like self-love, self-confidence, and, just self-esteem, because your esteem, it's been taken so much away from you. Can you share some of the things that you help with your clients to one day at a time to gain that power back?
Yeah. For me, it's very much about getting to know yourself again. So when I talk with clients and they're like, I don't know, like I need to focus on myself. Like I don't even know what that means. And so what do you want your life to look like is like the very first question that we all need to be asking ourselves. And obviously, if you're a client of mine, you've already decided that the life that you're living is not what you've envisioned for yourself. So we talk about, what do you want your life to look like? We even talk about things like, what kind of relationship do you want to have? Not just with your partner, but with yourself. And it's like the hardest question to answer, because there's been so much time that's been spent focusing on our loved one and micromanaging the environment and making sure that they're not being set off, or, you know, and when I say set off, I mean to say like making sure that there's no reason that we're giving them to drink, and so, or to use, or whatever it might be. And so it's important that we collectively look at our lives and say, one, what do I want my life to look like? And then we action plan from there. One of the most important things that I tell clients is, if you don't know where to start with what you used to like to do as a kid. I had a client who used to love to like salsa dance with her dad, do it all the time. She was so cute. She's so little. And she went off to a local restaurant or bar or whatever it was, and they had salsa. I guess you could just like jump in and join whomever was there, like lessons or whatnot. And she was like, that was the most fun that I've had in a really long time. Like, I genuinely felt at peace in those moments when I was doing that. And she's been doing that now for, I don't know, was like 6 months. She's not a client of mine anymore, but she was doing it for a really long time. And she was like, I didn't ever think about going back to the things I enjoyed as a kid, because when we were kids, we were so innocent. Like, life hadn't jaded us yet. Like, we were just so true and honest about who we were. And then we got older and we got jobs, and like our partners got addictions and such. So go back to the basics. And one of the things that I did, the very first thing, I used to love to draw when I was younger. I was like in art classes and everything. I thought I was going to be an artist as I got older, I guess. The very first thing that I did when I realized that I needed to move away, like emotionally, from my partner before I did it physically, was go to the store and buy a brand new box of colored pencils and watercolor. And that's what I did. I just used that as my form of expression at that time, because I was like, I don't know what to do, but I know I used to love to draw and to color. So no, I wasn't using little kids' coloring books, but
Which you certainly can.
Which you totally can, which, you know, I love doing that with my nephews. It's like such a cathartic feeling. But just back to the basics, like we have to re-find ourselves. Some of us have lost ourselves. Some of us have never known who we were. And I think that in particular was me. I don't think I ever really knew who I was. I was the kind of girl who was always in and out of relationships. So my self-worth was based on who loved me, and my self-esteem was based on that, and my confidence. And I had to really refine all of that. And we do that by putting the focus and energy back into ourselves and reconnecting with ourselves. And it means something different for everybody. At one point, it meant cooking for me. It was like ordering HelloFresh and had all those little ingredients sent to my door. And that for me was like very healing.
And it's also like a level of self-respect that comes back. And even now in your relationship, because you're in a relationship with the person that you were in a relationship with, there's a level of self-respect that you've been able to gain for yourself. And it seems as if you've been able to hold boundaries, and which is a totally other word that's just been throwing around right now. But I do find boundaries to be something that's very respectful and something that can be really helpful, whether you're in a business or you are in a relationship. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, boundaries, what also, again, like a word that I had never heard previously to all of what I've experienced. I have used the word no more often in the last 3 years than I think I ever did. And no is a full sentence. Boundaries, I say keep us connected but protected. That was something that my therapist said to me. She was like, connected but connected but protected. That's what a boundary does for you. So it's not about, like, a boundary is not about punishing somebody. It's actually to ensure that you can stay in relation with them. And a lot of the time, that person who's drinking or drugging, whatnot, they don't like boundaries. They don't want to respect boundaries. They don't want to be told no. And that's where becoming a doormat can come in, right? And so really standing firm in your boundary and saying, like, hey, if you do this, I'm going to do this. And it's not like in a punishing way, and it's not in like a threatening way. It's, if you do something that makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to respond in a way that's going to protect me, that's going to protect my children, that's going to protect my energy. And I mean, the same thing obviously goes for business. I mean, everyone would take advantage of one another if people didn't have boundaries. You just have to have them in order to function.
I've heard full sentences are no, you may be right. I'll think about that and get back to you. Uh, thank you for your opinion. And
Mhm.
yes, which is, you said yes to coming onto this podcast, and I'm so grateful that you did. And there's so much that you bring to this community, and you bring to even like the social media world. It's such a different thing, and I think that what you're doing brings so much service, and it's so selfless. And I'll just say, like, I'm just grateful to know that somebody is creating this space in like this modern way. And I love that, Christina, and thank you so much. I like to ask all my guests 3 questions before they leave. One is, what is a non-negotiable in your morning routine that sets you up for the day?
I like this question. My non-negotiable is making the bed. Making the bed is my first accomplishment of the day, besides getting up and out when my alarm clock rings. But making the bed for me, non-negotiable, because it sets the tone for the day.
What is a piece of advice or a suggestion that you can leave the listeners that they can apply to their daily routine, their business, and or relationship?
Ooh, piece of advice. So there's this quote, and I don't know where I saw it, probably on a Pinterest board or something. And it goes something along the lines, one day your story will become someone else's survival guide. And that is something that has really resonated with me and kept me pushing forward in the work that I do, because there's always going to be individuals out there who are going to need a helping hand, who are going to need your insight, who are going to need your vulnerability. And it's important that we continue to show up for our communities, because we have to love on them and nurture them. And simply by showing up, we are helping others, but in the same sense, we're helping ourselves. So that's what I live by. And I guess, to keep it short and sweet, keep showing up is my
I like
advice.
that. That's really nice. I like that. What is one book or podcast that has really helped you that you
Oh,
can
okay. Yes.
suggest?
So anyone who is part of my community will know that I am the biggest fan of John Kim, who is the Angry Therapist. You can find him on Instagram at the Angry Therapist. He's got an amazing podcast. He is the person who helped me through in 2018 when I was deciding that the relationship that I was in was not working for me, that I was worth more than what I was getting, that there was more waiting for me on the other side of a really hard decision. I even emailed him to let him know that, like, he changed my life. So I've been listening to him for several years. He has 2 amazing books. One of them, or 3 amazing books. One of them is called It's Not You, It's Me. And there's another one. Oh gosh, forgive me, I'm forgetting the title of it. It's sitting over there. But check John Kim out. He's got the best tips, the best podcasts, really good insight. He talks about relationships, and not in just terms of like addiction or any of that, but just in the importance of your relationship with yourself, finding a sense of self, and how that is the number one thing we should all be focusing on. And from there, we will find our standards for how other people should treat us. So he's just fantastic. Like, no, I don't get paid or anything for, like,
Yeah.
plugging him. He's just the absolute best. I just love
Kim
him.
coming to this podcast.
Yeah,
Cristina, thank you so much. Where can people find you? Plug yourself.
Sure, thanks. So you can find me on Instagram at relationships dot, like the period, and the full word, period, recovery. So relationships and recovery. I also have a Facebook group. So if you find me on Instagram, you can join our free forum. We've got about 650 people who are a part of that group, sharing information, sharing stories, seeking support. It's a really beautiful community that's in the works, that's being built. And if you ever want to send me an email, you can just go to my Instagram, and my email is right there. Yeah.
Cristina, thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that you are doing. Guys, you can follow me at Jessica J. Fury. You can follow the podcast at Dome Girl Podcast. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you.